welcome back to DSR. We're diving back into Crooked Moon, and we're doing the Cleric subclass called the Harvest Domain. Sow, grow, and reap in the harvest cycle. The harvest domain draws from the cycle beginning with creation, reaching abundance, and ending in culling before repeatedly repeating endlessly. Deities of farming and crops can focus on one of the harvest aspects, but most draw from each phase of the cycle. Clerics of this domain are drawn to the cyclical nature of existence, and they often take on roles as shepherds of different cycles. Cool thing, cool idea. There are plenty of gods who are gods of harvest and things like that. So frankly, I think it's a little bit surprising that this wasn't like right in the player's handbook, something like this. So it's great. Great that we have this one added. Level 3 feature, Community Almanac. You gain an herbalism kit and you have proficiency with it. You also gain proficiency in the nature or survival skill. All right, so herbalism kit. If you're proficient with an herbalism kit and have one, or alchemist supplies, you can make any magic potion, okay, with either one of those. There is one small difference for the herbalism kit, and that is if you have the herbalism kit proficiency and an herbalism kit, you can craft also, potion, the common level potions of healing, which you can still do with the alchemist supplies. The difference is when you do it with herbalism kit, you actually do it in less time. With an alchemist supplies, it would take 2.5 days or a total of 20 hours. With the herbalism kit, you can do it in 1 day or 8 hours. So there's a small benefit there, which is cool. And getting proficiency in nature or survival skill is great. I know a lot of people think that's just a ribbon and doesn't mean much. In my games, nature and survival come up a lot, even in my dungeon crawls. So those are great. If you're a DM and you struggle with using ability checks and making these skills that the players are building into their characters, I've got some videos on it. Look for that. You can. There's a lot of suggestions on how to use it. It's pretty simple stuff. Not hard to use. Then at level 3, also, we have Harvest Domain spells. So whenever you finish a short or long rest, choose an aspect of the harvest cycle, sowing, growing, or reaping. Consult the Harvest Domain spells table below. You have these spells listed in the column of your chosen aspect for the cleric level and lower prepared. So you're going to have one of these at a time, but you can switch on any short or long rest. And maybe we'll get a feature that allows us to switch as a bonus action, which would be cool. So first up, we got the sowing cycle. We get Druidcraft, Goodberry, Lesser Restoration, right at level 3. Those are all good spells. Druidcraft is a fun and fine utility cantrip. Goodberry is a great healing spell. It's at this point, it's really just a solid out of combat healing spell, especially with the strategy of at the end of each day, expend all of your spell slots that you haven't used yet to cast Goodberry a bunch of times. The Goodberries last 24 hours, and then you could be eating those the next day. All right, then at level 5, we have Harvest Moonglow, which is a new spell, so we'll bring that up. And Harvest Moonglow, it's an action cast, 60-foot range, 20-foot radius sphere, same kind of area as a fireball, 1 hour duration. You call upon the light of the harvest moon to illuminate a 20-foot radius sphere centered on a point within range. The area is bathed in silvery dim light. Creatures and objects with the invisible condition in the light become visible as translucent shimmering images. When one of your allies is within the light, it can use a bonus action to absorb some of the light and gain 2d6 temporary hit points. Upcast to increase the healing by to increase the temporary hit points by 1d6 for each spell slot level above 4. So it's a immobile area. Allies gain a new action while they're in the area to use a bonus action to gain temporary hit points, which would be an average of 7 plus another 3.5 per level you upcast it, which is actually pretty cool. It's kind of like the complement to Aura Vitality. Aura Vitality heals by 2d6 and then upcast by 1. No, it doesn't upcast at all. It's just flat 2d6 healing. This one gives 2d6 temporary hit points, but it can trigger, multiple times per round because it's once on each of your allies' turns or your turn too. So if there's 6 of you, then this triggers 6 times in 1 round. Now they're using their bonus actions, which I think is a decent balance to that. So this is cool. And the fact that it just automatically reveals invisible creatures is great. This is a good spell. Then continuing on with the sowing domain spells, we've got level 7 Death Ward, which is fine, and level 9 Awaken, which is an interesting spell. Awaken is potentially very strong depending on how much money the party has and how much downtime they get. You could be creating like this army of animated like trees, which are, I think, CR2, which can be very strong. If the DM doesn't really do downtime and doesn't give out very much money, then that spell is terrible. Also, players, I think we forget this sometimes, which is if you create all these minions, you control them, you manage them, you run them, right? There is no game engine that's running these for you. Don't expect a DM to roll all these, mini tree ants running around the battlefield for you. That's you. So if that doesn't sound like fun, don't do it. All right. So it takes a certain kind of player to take advantage of these kind of features where you can create these indefinite lasting minions and then you manage and run them all effectively. And what I do is I say, look, if you're going to have all these minions, between your turn and their turn, 5 minutes is your max per round. That's it, total. Doesn't matter. And if you run out of time, they start dodging. That's it. So that you don't destroy the game by bogging it down and making your turns take an hour. Okay. All right, then moving over to the growing cycle, we get guidance, which is a fantastic cantrip. It's a little bit awkward because you kind of want to have that one all the time, but you only have it prepared while you're in this cycle. So that makes this awkward. And I wish they just gave you these cantrips maybe all the time. Then we have Entangle, which is a decent first level control spell. Summer Winds, which is an interesting heal spell. It's like it's second level. It's like a Burning Hands, so it creates a 15-foot cone, but it heals allies by 2d6 hit points, and it doesn't do fire damage. So it doesn't damage your allies. It just heals allies in the cone. It will deal radiant damage to undead in the cone though, in the same amount, the 2d6. But it upcasts by 2d6 per spell slot level. So at level 1, like Burning Hands deals 3d6 damage and upscales by 1d6. This does 2d6 second level spell slot and upcast by 2d6. So if you cast this at third level, if you cast Burning Hands at third level and this at third level, and there's like undead you want to blast with it, Burning Hands will deal 5d6. This will deal 4d6. And you go up one more level to fourth level, Burning Hands would do 6d6, and this will do 66. So it catches up. I'm still not sure you want to be upcasting that much. I mean, it would be the rare circumstance where you have a number of allies in the area and one or two undead or more in the area, and so you're going to hit them all, heal your allies, and blast these undead. So it's an interesting spell. Then continuing with the growing cycle, we get Plant Growth, which is a fantastic spell, and Sanctum of the Shepherd, which is a problem. So we'll bring that up. And yeah, this spell, the short story of it is it basically just adds 1 to the entire party, to everybody's AC in the entire party. So they get +1 AC all the time for no resource expenditure. That is the TLDR of this thing. So as is, I haven't rated it in the Google Sheet yet, but as is, this one's banned in my games and will remain banned. So that is not how spellcasting is supposed to function. It's a resource. The trade-off is, you're doing these extra powerful things. You're expending this important resource. Doing this is problematic. It's kind of like Goodberry in that sense, except that it's just one spell, and Goodberry, there's an interesting decision there. Do you expend all of your spell slots, or do you save some spell slots because maybe you get ambushed during the long rest? And you definitely, DMs should be, rolling for ambushes during long rests. So anyway, Sanctum, so Goodberry's a little bit in that spectrum. I don't think it's a problem. It's never been a problem in any of my games. Sanctum of the Shepherd would definitely be a problem, and it's banned in my games. Then continuing with the growing cycle, we get Mass Cure Wounds, which is good. It's a good one to have. You probably would have prepared that anyway as a cleric. Then the Reaping cycle gives us Chill Touch, which is not a great cantrip anymore. Inflict Wounds, which was not a good spell in 5e and is even worse in 5.5. Yes, I know it does half damage on a successful save. I don't think that saves it. It's still a crappy spell. And Hold Person, which is a decent spell. Then we have some new spells. Culling Cycle, bring that one up. Necromancy spell, third level, bonus action, and it is concentration 1 minute. You create a ghostly sickle that lasts for the duration and can strike out at your foes. The sickle appears hovering in your space and moves with you when you cast this spell, and as a bonus action on each of your turns, you can direct it to fly at and strike a creature within 30 feet of you. Make a ranged spell attack. On a hit, the creature takes 2d8 necrotic damage, and you gain temporary hit points equal to half the damage dealt. After the sickle hits or misses, it returns to hover in your space. The damage increases by 1d8 for spell slot level above third. All right, so this is spiritual weapon. But a little better, right? So it doesn't stay, you don't move it around the battlefield and it stays where you place it. This one's just always floating around you, and it's just a ranged attack within 30 feet, which actually makes it simpler than spiritual weapon and better in a lot of ways, because the placing that weapon on the battlefield and having the player like manage its movement and its location is actually a pain in the butt. I mean, I don't know if it's a big pain in the butt. It is overhead, and the spell's not good enough to justify that overhead. So this one I actually think is simpler to use, therefore that's better and is worth it, probably. I don't know that this, I mean, worth it probably. This is better than Spirit Guardians, even though it's a spell slot level higher, or a spell level higher. Is it better than Spirit Guardians? No. Spirit Guardians is probably still better than this. Spirit Guardians deals more damage, upcast at the same rate, has 2 damage types, which is better than this. This only has necrotic, but it gives temporary hit points. So depending on the fight, maybe you need those temporary hit points. I don't know. Then we have Consuming Pyre at level. It's a 4th level spell. We gain access to this at level 7. Bring this one up. It is, yep, an action to cast, 1 minute duration with concentration, 90-foot range. You cause a creature that you can see within range to burst into consuming and relentless flames. The target to make a dexterity saving throw. On a fail save, the target takes 2d8 fire, 2d8 necrotic, or radiant damage. You choose between necrotic and radiant. And the radiant flames linger. On a successful save, it takes half as much damage only. While the flames linger, the creature takes the damage again at the start of each of its turns, another 48. And the target or another creature within reach can take an action to allow the target to repeat the saving throw, ending the spell on success. So the action does not auto-end it, and they don't get a free re-roll on the save. They have to spend an action, or an ally spend an action, to give them a resave. Now, that means multiple allies could be using their actions to give them resaves, and so it might be easier to end this than than other spells that only give 1 resave at the end of their turns. But that's fine, because the damage is not that great. And if you cause like 3 or 4 monsters to waste their actions trying to put this out, that's even better. And a creature killed by this damage from this spell is reduced to ash, along with any non-magical equipment it is wearing or carrying. So this one's interesting. Is it worth it on a full caster like this? Spirit Guardians kind of ruins everything. Spirit Guardians is so good and it takes your concentration. So is this better? Is this good on its own? Would this be worth your concentration as a 4th level spell? Maybe. It's a decent 4th level spell. But if you have access to Spirit Guardians, which you do as a cleric, that's just better. So spend your action or your concentration on Spirit Guardians. Now, Spirit Guardians only works in a 15-foot emanation from you, so if you don't want to stand that close to the front line, you've built your cleric not as an armored cleric, but as like a backliner, like this lady who's dressed in robes in the art here. Then then you don't want to be using Spirit Guardians because you don't want to stand that close to melee. Okay, then Consuming Pyre is better. All right, last of these spells is Field of Reaping, which we get access to at level 9 while we're in the reaping cycle. Bringing that one up, and here we have it, 5th level spell. It's an action to cast, 1 minute concentration, 90-foot range, and it creates a 30-foot cube. You create a shadowy field that reaps escaping life force in a 30-foot cube originating from a point within range. A creature hostile to you in the field when it appears or when it enters the field for the first time in a turn or ends its turn there is cursed, automatically no save. While cursed, the first time the creature takes damage during a turn, not once per round, but once per turn, it takes an extra 1d6 necrotic damage, and a creature of your choice within the field that isn't cursed by it regains a number of hit points equal to the necrotic damage taken. So this one's actually pretty good. I like this one. And at this level, and especially if you're not like a frontlining cleric, this is better than Spirit Guardians if you're not a frontlining cleric, because you can place this cube on the front lines to cover all of your frontliner allies and some or all of the enemies. And then every single turn, potentially on your allies' turns and on the monster's own turns, if there's like a searing smite on them, they're going to take damage at the start of the monster's going to take damage at the start of its turn, right? And it says every turn when they take damage, they take an extra 1d6. So that would increase the damage of searing smite by 1d6 at the start of their turn. And any other recurring effects that deal damage on the monster's turn, which there are lots of, right? So this incentivizes the party to be throwing those things out. Let's say that there are 6 PCs and 6 monsters, and you leverage those kind of features a lot that cause damage on the monster's turn, and then every turn you and each of your allies are doing at least some damage to each of the enemies. That means this is triggering on every one of all of those 12 turns, right? 6 allies, 6 monsters. I mean, I guess to get it 12 times, you'd have to have something that says it takes damage during other monsters' turns, which is unlikely. So what's much more likely is they're going to take the damage once on their turn and then once on each of your allies' turns, and that's going to be like 7d6 damage for each monster from this one spell, plus you're healing that same amount. So you're also healing 7d6 per round. And I think that puts it into the range of what Conjure Celestial does, and Conjure Celestial is a 7th level spell. Now, Conjure Celestial can also be moved around, and this cube cannot be moved, but this is a good spell, all right? And it's a level 5 spell. So, pretty good spell. Whew, that was a lot. All right, back to features. Level 3, Cornucopia. If you don't have the incapacitated condition when you start a short rest, which is going to be rare, you can magically create a cornucopia filled with enough food for a number of creatures equal to twice your proficiency bonus. When creatures that eat that food finish a short rest, you can distribute a number of d4s equal to your cleric level among the creatures who ate the food. Each creature immediately rolls the dice that are allotted and regains hit points equal to the total. Cornucopia and any uneaten food vanish when the short rest ends. Once you use this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. So a minor additional healing, a number of creatures equal to your proficiency bonus. And then I don't know why, I mean, twice your proficiency bonus. I don't know why you got to limit it how many creatures can eat from the cornucopia, and then also limit it to the benefit being a number of d4s equal to your cleric level. Just remove this one because you already have the limit here. So you're going to give out a number of d4s equal to your cleric level, so 3d4 extra healing once a day during a short rest. All right, this is a pretty minor healing feature. Moving on to Bountiful Harvest at level 3. As a magic action, you present your holy symbol and expend a use of your channel divinity to invoke the spirit of the harvest. Up to 6 creatures of your choice within 60 feet of you gain heroic inspiration. A creature must finish a long rest before it can gain heroic inspiration from this feature again. Additionally, you grant all targets one of the following benefits. If your current harvest aspect is a different one, it changes to match the choice. All right, so here we go. Channel divinity allows us to switch our harvest cycle, as I was kind of expecting and hoping. Sowing, a target gains a number of temporary hit points equal to your proficiency bonus plus your wisdom modifier. That's okay. Not super great, but it's okay. Growing until the end of your next turn. When a target makes an attack roll or ability check, it adds 1d4 to the total. So that's like a bless. It's not bless, because bless would be attack rolls and saving throws. This is attack roll and ability checks. So this is okay. It gets until the end of your next turn when a target, and the target is one of these 6 creatures, your allies. So, okay, if you're in growing, you give all of your allies plus 1d4 on their attack rolls and ability checks. If you got a lot of marshals, that's great. If you got ability checks, really only come up in combat to escape DC most of the time. Escape grapples most of the time. So those ability checks are going to be pretty minor in combat, but the attack rolls might be pretty good. If you got a lot of marshals, that's going to be pretty good. If you don't have any marshals, that's going to be useless. And reaping, a target deals extra necrotic damage equal to your proficiency bonus for the first time it damages a creature before the end of your next turn. So this is each of your allies is going to deal your proficiency bonus in necrotic damage once this round when you do this. That's pretty minor. If it was at least your allies could deal this extra damage once per turn, they might get it on their turn and again as a reaction attack on somebody else's turn. So at least it might be twice. That's pretty minor. And this is minor. Temporary hit points equal to your proficiency bonus plus your wisdom modifier. Like right now, that's probably 5 total. And it's going to cap out at 11. I guess it's not terrible. You're going to give them heroic inspiration and 11 temporary hit points when you're level 20. Is that worth your channel divinity? I mean, you don't have any other uses for it other than divine spark and turn undead, so maybe. Growing is probably the best feature of all of these. I don't know. 1 round of plus 1d4 on attack rolls. That's actually pretty significant. A lot of the time when player characters miss an attack roll, it's by like 1 or 2 points, right? They don't often miss by like 5 to 10. So adding a plus 1d4 is going to turn most misses into a hit. Well, that's at higher levels. At lower levels, they might miss by 5 or more. So I guess at lower levels, this is going to help a little. And at high levels, this is going to help more. Now, the difference is at low levels, your miss rate is like 40%. And at high levels, your miss rate is like 10%. So at low levels, this is going to increase your miss rate or reduce your miss rate from like 40% to 30%. And at high levels, this is going to reduce your miss rate from 10% to 5%. Maybe. Something like that. I don't know. These are all pretty minor effects, and overall, this feels like a fairly minor channel divinity. And I think the biggest thing that makes this not really powerful is the fact that it's so easy to gain heroic inspiration now. I mean, I hand out heroic inspiration all the time for players, role play, even during combat. if they do something cool and exciting and describe it great, or it's funny and it makes people laugh, heroic inspiration. Even if they put a good GIF into the Discord channel during combat, I'll give heroic inspiration for that sometimes. That's something that's like really spot on in the moment, right? But now we have all kinds of feats that give heroic inspiration. We have class features, subclass features that give heroic inspiration. And so this is just, it's not that uncommon now. And a lot of the time you're going to find, and then it's so common to optimize around those features for heroic inspiration that most parties have heroic inspiration they're handing out, and adding this to it is not going to make not going to be a big deal. Okay, let's move on to level 6. Blessing of the Seasons. You can draw upon the powers of the harvest cycle to potentially avert disaster. When a creature you can see within 30 feet of you fails a saving throw of a particular type determined by your current aspect, you can take a reaction to allow it to reroll the d20 and use the new roll. The type of saving throws you can affect are as follows. For sowing, it's dexterity and charisma. For growing, it's constitution and intelligence. For reaping, it's wisdom and strength. Additionally, after the saving throw succeeds or fails, roll a number of d4s equal to your proficiency bonus. Target regains hit points equal to the total rolled, so it's also a heal. Okay, you can use this feature a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier, minimum of once, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. Okay, this is decent, And you might pick it based on the cycle, based on what the whole party tends to be bad at. And like if the whole party is like clerics and paladins, you might want to choose sowing because you're all going to be bad at dexterity. If the whole party is all spellcasters, maybe you want to choose growing just so that everybody has advantage on their Constitution saving throws, which also gives them advantage on their Constitution saving throws to maintain concentration, right? So the whole party doesn't even need Warcaster anymore, unless they're holding a weapon and a shield. Reaping is a good one if you got a lot of like marshals in the party, a lot of fighters, barbarians, low level rogues, low level monks, like anybody who doesn't have proficiency in wisdom saving throw is a solid one to give, because wisdom is the most common, most debilitating saving throw that is imposed. Like it's common, and wisdom saving throws usually are quite debilitating. Like you get, it's the hold person spell, or it's a big control effect that you're saving yourself from. Whereas dexterity tends to be just damage, and constitution tends to be damage unless it's a concentration to maintain concentration. So yeah, in general, if like your party, all the spellcasters already have Warcaster, I would choose probably reaping. Although that spell list I'm not sure that's the better spell list. Anyway, you got some options, and it's an interesting decision to figure out what is the right one to use in the moment. Although remember, you can switch this with this channel divinity. So this channel divinity allows you to change your cycle. So maybe you start off just reaping all the time, and if you run into an encounter where the whole party is all suddenly getting hit by fireballs from like a pit fiend who can cast 2 fireballs per round, if they recharge their resource. That's 2 dexterity saving throws for a lot of damage, or if you're against a red dragon, you might want dexterity saving throws. So you just switch it to whatever you need in the moment using your channel divinity. It's a good combo. Finally, level 17. When you use your bountiful harvest, you can invoke the endless cycle of life, death, and rebirth to grant yourself and the creatures affected by your channel divinity an additional benefit based on your current aspect. Sowing targets gain the effects of the regenerate spell for 1 minute or until you lose concentration. Wow. Okay, so this adds on top of what you got from your channel divinity. So you're going to get this effect, heroic inspiration, temporary hit points, plus regenerate. That's actually pretty good, because regenerate heals a good chunk of hit points initially, plus 1 hit point per round. So, I mean, that's going to be 10 hit points of regeneration after the initial, but the initial is like, what is it, 7d6, something like that healing. It's some weird number. Anyway, it's a good chunk of initial healing plus regeneration, right? Now that regeneration, that 10 hit points may not seem like a lot, but remember, yes, yo-yo healing is still a thing. So if your party's like getting knocked down a lot, like dropping to 0 hit points, they automatically regenerate 1 hit point at the start of their turn, which means they get to take their turn, right? And you don't have to worry about death save fails as much unless the monsters have like multi-attack and they're just focusing fire on a downed PC before they can get their turn to regenerate. So regenerate is a pretty good effect. Then we have the growing cycle. Target gains advantage on saving throws and ability checks for up to 1 hour or until you lose concentration. Interesting. As if concentrating on a spell. The thing that it doesn't say that this takes your concentration. It says is if you lose concentration. So if you're already concentrating on a spell and then you use this feature, I think that they stack and you can use both. But if you were to use this first and then cast a spell with concentration, this would have to drop because that causes you to lose concentration. Yeah, as written, I think that's how this is going to work. If you have a concentration spell going first, then this would stack on top of that. Advantage on all saving throws and ability checks for 1 hour. So that's going to have like less synergy because of this. You already had advantage on Constitution Intelligence. Now you get advantage on everything, every saving throw and ability checks. I mean, this is an interesting out of combat feature because it's basically right advantage on all skill checks, right, of any kind, regardless of whether or not you're proficient, and it lasts 1 hour. So that's good. That's a good support and out of combat feature. Then reaping, target gains resistance to necrotic, psychic, and poison damage for 1 hour. That's also solid. Once you use this feature, you can't do so again to finish a long rest unless you expend a spell slot of level 7 or higher. No action required to restore your use of it. Yeah, yeah, I think that justifies a level 7 spell slot. It's the regenerate spell. It's like giving 2/3 of the foresight spell for this one. This one is, I'm not sure this one justifies the level 7 spell slot, but when you need it, right? Like, don't use this one most of the time. You choose to add this on top of it, right? So you, just because you use Channel Divinity, you don't also get these. You have to choose to add this on top of it. All right, so just don't use this one unless you're facing these kind of damage types. Like if you're facing a green dragon, yeah, you're going to need poison resistance. If you're facing a lich, you're probably going to need necrotic resistance, right? Or a vampire, or whatever. So yeah, that's a solid feature. All right, then we have Rites of the Harvest, which is our inspiration that they add on most of these subclasses. So use the Harvest Rites table for inspiration on observances based on each aspect of the harvest cycle. So for sowing, we have bury a sacrificial offering into a newly plowed field, such as dried corn husk, dead fish, robin's eggs, or hare's foot. Brew blessed mixtures and concoctions for consumption or irrigation that increase the fertility of crops, livestock, or people. Gift a pouch of seeds to travelers at the start of a journey to ensure they arrive at their destination. And we have growing rites. Tend to the sick or injured with natural remedies that utilize pure water, fertile soil, rich ash, or fruit poultice to speed up healing. Bless crops or livestock to usher in favorable weather and a growing season that produces strong and healthy bounty. Oversee marriages, binding the betrothed with woven grain stalks or linen cords. Give funeral rites that return the deceased body or ashes to the fields, mixing in earth from their home and decaying crops to enrich the soil. Sharpen blades blessed by the harvest gods ahead of battle or before a harvest to ensure that all that is reaped is offered to the divine. Slaughter adult livestock or reap ripe crops for a feast to celebrate nature's bounty. All right, so great stuff, especially if you're like me, where I am not a creative storyteller, and this kind of stuff is harder for me than the mechanics. The mechanics is the easy part for me. All right, let's rank this thing. So the Harvest Cleric is going to be an A overall. And it's a little bit strange. On one hand, I want to give it an S because it is easy to build this into an S tier if you combine features from the Cleric base class plus this subclass, which you will definitely have those Cleric base class features because this is a subclass on the Cleric, right? But my approach to how I do all of these is I rate the subclass on its own. So I'm going to rate the subclass as an A, but you can make it into an S tier healer support easy with your Cleric features. Yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it like that. But anyway, okay. So, and this is also like an A multi-class dip. I'm gonna give it a C as a frontliner. It's got some interesting, it's got some things that can help with frontlining. A little damage that you can add, a little improved survivability for yourself. Some of these spells can help with frontlining. The Awaken spell can give you frontliners. C for range. It's got some range damage dealing spells. None of them are really great, so it's going to be a C overall. And you don't have any other features that are increasing your range damage dealing capability very much, just a little bit. And a C is a controller. It has some control spells that it's adding. Those control spells are okay. It's not that they're bad, but as I always feel like I need to remind this, when I say a C on the subclass rankings, that doesn't mean it is a C. It means it's adding a C's worth of features on top of what your base class gives you. Okay, it's adding a C's worth package, and that's averaged out for all 20 levels. It's not right at one level. If I were to go into higher detail like I do with the core rules subclasses, and I rate kind of each feature on its own, you can see that sometimes I'll rate a feature as an A feature, but when I average it out for the whole subclass and 20 levels, you're a C overall in that category. All right, and this one is an A as a healer, A for support, right? That's the two areas where combined with a cleric base class who is also an A healer and an A support. And I've said before that adding these things together or combining things together aren't necessarily strictly additive, right? Just because you're an A at this and then your subclass is also an A at that doesn't mean you add those together and now you're an S. In this case, it can. You would add, adding the features you have in your base class cleric for healer and support with these features, they do add together, and there is a lot of synergy there. And you could easily be an S tier healer and S tier support from these features combined. Then this one also has an A's worth of self buff and survival stuff because anything you're doing to support your allies is also buffing you too. And then a C's worth of knowledge. That's mainly from your extra proficiencies you get here at 3rd level, which are good and they're not bad in any way. It's just that's the only knowledge stuff we're getting. We don't get anything else the rest of the career of this subclass. Here you see the subclass in context with all the other subclasses from partner content and classes that I have rated. Yeah. So, and you can also see that Crooked Moon doing a good job. Not anything less than an A. Few that are a little overtuned. Although I'm starting to think that I might add another field to this at the end and just say, at least for my players, it kind of hurts my soul to be excluding so many things. So I kind of want to add a little note. A lot of these S1s have small, simple fixes that could be applied to bring them down to an S. And then they would be allowed in my game. So I might do that. I don't know when, but at some point I might do that. Okay, so yeah, this one's a solid pick, and this is a great book. So if you're thinking about picking up one book, I don't know, you got a budget for one book, this might be the one. Okay, that's all I got for this one. Thanks for watching. If you don't have enough D&D in your life, check the video description. You can find a link to join my Discord or find me on Start Playing Games if you want to play. There's also a link to my Google Drive that has this Google Sheet in it that you just saw, and everything is in there. You're welcome to use it. You don't have to do anything or sign up anything to get access to it. In order to filter and sort, you do need to make a copy of it, though, unfortunately. And then you can filter and sort to your heart's content. I do add stuff to it almost every day, so you might have to make a copy pretty often. I'm sorry, until we have a better solution. This is what we got. Remember that D&D is a game, and the only point of it is to have fun with your friends. So please be cool when you play D&D, okay? All right. Catch you next time.